covering all 4 major sports in the District of Champions. It's the DC Crossover Podcast with your hosts, Mike Cerrone and Ben Simpson.
Hello and welcome to episode number 105 of the DC Crossover. I am Ben Simpson. That is Mike Cerrone. You may be catching us in a variety of ways, either on the Contender app, Contender with a K. It is completely free. Download the app, listen to our show and many other programs. You may be checking us out on Apple Podcasts or Spotify as well, or the YouTube. Yes, we put our full episodes up on YouTube as well, so you can check those out too. Nothing really special about the video version. It's just, hey, we're both on there, and if I listen to a lot of podcasts via YouTube, especially during the workday when I work from home. So maybe you do as well. So check out our show in all those ways. Of course, Mike took the reins last week as I was busy with my daughter's first birthday. So Mike ran the solo show. From everything I heard, it sounded pretty good it sounded like the show went pretty well for you.
Yeah, it's not that bad. I mean, that's the biggest thing is when it comes down to solo shows, as you already know.
Yeah.
When we do the post-game shows, and I mentioned this on the show last week, that, we've done it before. It's not our favorite because obviously having other opinions and stuff like that and having banter back and forth and, laughs and whatnot. I laugh at myself all the time as it is. But at the same time, it's better to have that other body there.
Sure, it's tough to do a solo show, man.
Yeah, but you get used to it after maybe like 5 or 10 minutes. So
yeah,
if you go back and listen to the show, you might want to just fast forward to like minute 6 because
right.
I'm like repeating myself a bunch in the first like 4 minutes. I'm just basically just plugging in the Contender, plugging in the the Twitters or whatever, all this kind of different stuff, and it took forever for me to get going, but I always have that feeling because you're always wondering, like, is everything recording correctly? Is because if you're talking and I'm checking my levels and different things like that, same thing with you. And you're getting other things ready. But like I had sounders and I had this and I had that, and I was doing it in somewhat of an unconventional way than we usually do it. Because obviously I was doing it through my phone soundboard and stuff like that. And it just kind of you have to get used to the show like running smoothly, like knowing, okay, I don't have to pay attention to my levels this much, or
right.
My phone's not going to be ringing off the hook somehow, and with 0 friends that you have in general, but now they're all of a sudden going to call you. So it's just one of those days that like literally when you do a solo show, you have to, and professional guys do this as well, where the first like 5 or 10 minutes, like they just have to kind of get into the groove. And once you get in the groove, then everything is nice and smooth sailing.
Yeah, I don't know that. I mean, there's some guys that do, and I know a lot of it's helped because they take phone calls or their producer will chat with them a bit during the show. But there's some radio guys out there that do, 3-4 hour show solo every day, and I just can't even imagine trying to pull that off. I mean, you and I have a lot to say, especially you. You Mike loves to talk, but 4 hours solo show, I don't even know if even you. I mean, I'm sure you could pull off a few of those, but imagine doing that like 5 days a week, trying to talk for 4 hours. I mean, you'd lose your mind at some point because you'd start repeating yourself or telling the same stories. That's why we do at least 2 people on the show, and we've never really found a third person that is that makes sense to bring into the fold for our show. So that's why it's just been 2. But maybe one day. You never know. You never know. But
that's what I'm saying is like literally when you're doing those solo shows. I mean, like you said, I can talk with the best of them. I can talk to myself. I can do this, and the funny thing about it is that when I'm doing the show, I'm trying to keep the flow going, but I'm also trying to sound like those guys that do the solo shows on the radio. And obviously I don't have a producer. I didn't have another, person talking to me through the phone lines or whatever. But when you're, trying to do a show like that, and I'm not trying to like save face and saying it was an awful show. I thought it was better after like minute 20. But when you're looking at it, especially not having football season go down, it's very difficult to talk about, these, because that's the thing that we talk about is like when we talk about the, the Caps and the Wizards and stuff like that, when they just have normal games and it's like the regular season,
Yeah,
it's
no
not
big
like
storylines, like
exactly
only the Caps are competing for the playoffs, and even then they're at the bottom, like they're the last team in basically at this point. And
right.
then the Wizards are just god awful. So yeah, no, it's tough, but no, you made it work, and we appreciate those downloading and listening to that one. But I am back this week, and
How'd the celebrations go, by the way?
celebrations were good. 1-year-old birthday, obviously, so no, she'll never remember a minute of it. But she
Right.
did experience her first chocolate cake. I sent you the video and pictures.
Damn,
And
that looked good though. That looked good.
oh yeah, she loved it. She loved chocolate cake just like her dad. Her dad's a big chocolate cake fan, and the best part about 1-year-old birthdays is there's a lot of leftover cake, and so your boy definitely had
My
his
man.
fair share, of the leftover cake for sure. A lot to talk about on the show. Before we get into the meat of the program, though, obviously it's not sports related, but one of the biggest pop culture events to happen this year, probably in the last few years, is of course you've all seen it by now: Will Smith and Chris Rock altercation, Mike. Which was a pretty pretty wild scene.
What did Craig Melvin
obviously.
say about that?
Craig, see, now I have to bounce back and forth between soundboards because he's on my other page. But so actually, and credit to you, Mike, you were the first person to tell me about it, because as I've chronicled on this program, I have to, if I'm going to get sleep at night, I have to go to bed early because with a baby, they wake me up throughout the whole night. So I usually miss some stuff that happened past like 10 o'clock. And that's, this thing, we actually watched some of the Oscars and stayed up a little bit, but we totally did not stay up for this. And so I woke up this morning and usually we'll have a few texts from Mike and a couple other friends, and so I usually it's funny. Every morning I wake up, I usually have something to read from somebody, and this morning it was Mike sent me the video of the Will Smith Chris Rock thing, and I was looking at it at 5:50 in the morning, just being like, "Holy crap, we sure missed something last night." It was insane.
Yeah, and that's the thing is whenever I text you, usually it's about bad beats betting. But so that usually just gets glossed over and really no one even responds.
Right.
Which is more so just me just venting and just saying like I hate this, I hate life.
Sure.
But yeah, last night was just nuts because of the sole fact that everyone's been talking about it now and people are sending their reactions in, and like all these famous public figures are saying different things. And the biggest thing about it was they cut to Will Smith after the joke, and he was kind of like, wow. And he was like laughing, and then all of a sudden, like,
that was the funniest part.
Then they cut back to Chris Rock, and he said something I couldn't really. It wasn't like inaudible. I couldn't really understand what he said, but and then all of a sudden, like he's like ho 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 ho, like and then all of a sudden he started walking up there, and at first I thought like, okay, he's just gonna like say something like, "Hey, dude, like, chill out, man."
Yeah, not cool or whatever, and then
and then all of a sudden, kapow! That's the
wow.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because in the U.S. aired version, from my understanding, is like
they muted the audio.
Yeah, you muted the audio. You only and it came back. And it was frozen for a second as well, and then like for a couple seconds, then it came back and like. It came back to Will, and I think you couldn't hear what Will was saying, but you saw in the everyone saw later he was saying like, "Keep my wife's name out of your effing mouth," and it's just a crazy. I mean, it's one of those things where culturally, like, it's one of those things that everyone like comments on at the same time, and there's very few things like that. It's like you had like Tiger King, you had like a couple other ones where like it's just this giant cultural phenomenon for like a day or something where every single person has an opinion on it and is talking about it, and it's just one of those weird things about our society, man. It's just crazy. We love that stuff. We eat it up. It's nuts.
And obviously their relationship is already rocky as it is with all the openness that they have.
Right.
So you're also looking at that saying like, why is he flipping out over a small joke? And Chris Rock is one of the top comedians of all time.
Oh
so
yeah,
you're
like
gonna
put him in the top 3 for sure.
Yeah, so you're gonna sit there and say like you're really gonna take that far, where you're gonna go up there and like assault him? Like, let's be
Oh,
honest
it
here.
was nuts.
And,
It
and
was
Chris
nuts.
and Chris Rock, like, and honestly, I didn't see it live. I just saw it on TikTok when I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
because I usually scroll through TikTok for like a handful of minutes, maybe 20, maybe 30. I don't know. I lose track.
Maybe 3 hours, but yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, before bed, and I saw it, I was like, it's kind of weird. So then, obviously, the first thing I do is go to Twitter, and I see it right on the trending page, and then I got to see this TikTok. Obviously, some people put in the full versions, but the version I saw was like someone saying like, "Why is this muted? Why is this not going?" Like they're freaking out, and then all of a sudden I was like, "Okay, I got to go to Twitter because they're not going to bleep it out."
No. Twitter is wild, wild west. I mean, they put anything on there. It's kind of nuts.
Yeah, and I saw it, and I was like, man, this is just like, I mean, that's the crazy thing, man. It's like it's just a joke, and I understand, she has alopecia and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but apparently, like, there's a big chance Chris Rock didn't even know that she had it because, like, she just recently came out and said that she had that. So he didn't know. He was just making a stupid joke because she had short hair, and he was making a stupid joke, and Will Smith laughed at the joke, and then since Jada was upset, he's like, oh, let me, I gotta, it's like, what are you doing, dude? This is
And some people were coming out and like really hardcore defending Will and stuff like that.
I know, I saw some of that.
And then
nuts.
Yeah, and then the other people, it's the same thing with like the politics nowadays. Everyone's either really right or really left. There's none of us that are in the middle.
It's like if a guy makes fun of your wife like at the bar or wherever, go for it. Do whatever you want. Like, you want to hit the guy, you want to do whatever. It's like, all right, that's your prerogative. Whatever you want to do. This is the Oscars where a professional comedian is making a joke, and you could say it's a bad joke. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Talk to him later about it. Like, come on,
exactly. Confront him at the after party or do whatever. And instead, it was just an insane moment. I mean, obviously nobody gives a crap about the Oscars, anyways. But this is the only thing people are talking about. Like, like if you poll everybody about who actually won Best Picture last night, nobody will know. They'll just know that Will Smith slapped, not even punch. It was a slap on Chris Rock. Just
that's the funny thing too is that when you say that about no one's gonna know who Best Picture is, because usually it's like the nominees are like 4 movies that no one's even heard of before.
Right.
They were in theaters, and that's like the movie that's just there as like a filler movie because no one even knows what Fish Out of Water or something.
That was The Shape of Water and I saw that as one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
I still remember that to this day.
A lot of fish sex in that one. Where this guy, it's weird. It's weird. Like,
wow,
it's one of the weirdest. Yeah, you should. It's one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life. And it won, and all these other. But yeah, you're right. Like all these movies last night, it was like, I mean, some of them are god awful. Like we'll start with Joe in a sec, but like I watched that Don't Look Up movie, terrible. Now Netflix. King Richard's supposed to be terrible. The one that he actually won Best Actor, that's supposed to be so bad. I mean, none of these. Dune was okay. I didn't understand what the hell was going on most of the time, but it was like, all right, this looks cool. I mean, it's just garbage. It's garbage. You want to put a real Best Picture out there? Freaking Spider-Man, a billion people saw that movie. It's like that should be Best Picture. Why are we putting stupid just garbage movies up there? It's nuts. Well, this isn't a movie podcast. We'll get into sports, but we had to talk about that for a sec here. Let's get into the rewind. Just a quick recap of the previous week in sports, just in case you missed any of these games or any of these news. We'll start with the Washington Commanders. Not a lot to talk about here, obviously, in the offseason, but I did want to mention that NFL.com put out their most recent power rankings, and they put the Commanders, Mike, down at 26, only ahead of the Falcons, Jets, Lions, Giants, Jags, and Texans. I was a little taken aback by this, I'll be honest. I mean, I thought it was a little low.
That is a little low. I mean, let's be honest here. They have a better quarterback, and they finished last year better than 26. So I don't understand that.
Yeah, I don't get it either, but we'll talk about it in a bit. Let's move on to the Caps, Mike, as the season nears its close.
Currently, we have about 15 games to go. They are 37, 20-10, fourth in the Metro, second in the wild card. Tuesday, they lost to St. Louis, just a bad loss, 5-2. It's one of those losses that's kind of like, it wasn't the best. But at the same time, the Blues are still pretty good. And it's just one of those games that they just didn't perform that well. Tom Wilson with a goal and an assist in that game. Kuzi scored his 10-point game streak. I believe he is actually one of, I think he has maybe 7th or something like that in the highest point streaks of the season. So that's actually pretty good for him. The BTEC Vanchek, not a great game for him, but he was getting blistered with shots, 37 shots, let in 4 goals. Not the best game for the Caps. On Friday, they beat Buffalo 4-3 in a shootout, which is crazy because I think we've won our last 3 shootouts, and this team is not that great at shootouts in general. But they did beat Buffalo 4-3 in a shootout. I believe Ovi scored with 3:13 left in the game to tie it, to send things to overtime, which was awesome. And then Ovi scored the decisive shootout goal too, as well, which was amazing as well, because he's not that great at shootouts in general. But I believe we also saw Kuzi have a really nice shootout goal as well, where he did like a bunch of dekes, and you were like, is this guy ever going to shoot it? And he finally scored, which is awesome. Anthony Mantha and Nick Jensen also scored, and Sam Sonoff had a pretty good game with 20 saves, but he allowed 1 goal on 3 shootout attempts, which is the main thing that you wanted to happen in that game.
No kidding.
And Saturday, they beat the Devils. So 2 layup games, as you could say, because Buffalo and New Jersey aren't that great, but it was still kind of tight. They beat New Jersey 4-3. Nick Backstrom scores the go-ahead goal and an assist. Ovi scored his team-leading 42nd goal. That's not a surprise at all. On the 3rd power play, and VTech had 29 saves. The Caps are 3 points behind Boston currently for the number 1 wild card spot. And they lead Columbus by 15 points for the 2nd wild card spot. But at the same time, Boston and Toronto are so close together right now that Toronto was just in Boston's spot not too long ago. So we might see something with 15 games to go. We might not. And tonight, the Caps play Carolina in DC for the final possible quote-unquote playoff preview, where the Caps have a 3-0 record versus the Canes, outscoring them 12-5, which also is pretty interesting because the Canes, I think, are 1-3, 3-1 against the Bruins. So they would much rather play the Bruins than the Caps in the playoffs. But now moving on to the team, which Ben's going to talk about the first game that really pissed me off, got a bad beat for me, the Washington Wizards.
Yeah, the Wiz, the season obviously coming to a close here soon. They're 32-42, 12th place, not going to make the playoffs likely. About 8 games left in the season at this point, so things are definitely wrapping up. Monday, losing to Houston, 115-97. This was a bad beat, to say the least. I mean, they were up by 23 points at one point, and they lose. Christian Wood just went bonkers. 8-3, scores 39 points. This is their big man. Chris Stapps put up 22, 13, and 6. Great game for him, but another blown lead by the Wizards, 20-plus point blown lead. I mean, they've had a multitude of these this season. It's just ugly.
I needed them to do is beat the worst team in the NBA to win my same game parlay because everyone else hit, and they blew a 23-point lead.
Not good. They had a couple days to think about it, and then they came back on later in the week, losing to Milwaukee 114-102. This was a Bucks team with no Giannis and no Chris Middleton, and the Wiz still unfortunately lose. 17 points. KP and KCP each with 16. Nothing much to talk about there. Friday on the road in Detroit, a 3-point win. I tell you, they just beat the Pistons every single time they play. Like, you always got to bet on the Wiz when they play the Pistons because it's just they always win. KP 30-10 in this one. The Wiz had lost 8 of 9 going into this game, and of course, if a slump buster, you play the Pistons. Denny, nice game, 21-10, one of his best games of the year for sure. And then Sunday, beating the Warriors 123-115. Corey Kispert put up a career-high 25 points. And a fun note, Corey Kispert passed Bradley Beal's franchise record for rookie threes in a season. Beal had 91 threes in that 2012-2013 year, and now Kispert with 96. Kind of an under-the-radar thing there for Corey Kispert, Mike, because I feel like people aren't necessarily talking about him. I mean, he's definitely not going to be in any rookie of the year races or anything like that.
Right.
But we are seeing, I mean, it seems like every week now on the show, we're talking about one of the games, one of the 4 games each week where Corey Kispert puts up, 20 points or something, and he hits, 4 threes, and there clearly is improvement that we're starting to see finally, which is nice for a draft pick, because usually when it comes to the Wizards, the guy spends the first year riding the bench, and then second year maybe develops a little bit. So kind of cool to see that 96 threes on the season.
Right, and that's the biggest thing when you come look at the draft pick where he actually got picked at. Because typically the first, I would say 6, maybe 7 as a stretch, might be a stretch. there's the only ones that are like the Cade Cunninghams of the world, the
Right.
John Walls, the Bradley Beals, those type of players are, usually picked in the top 6 or 7. You don't really see a guy like Corey Kispert who gets picked. I believe he got picked, 15th or something like that, maybe 11th. I forgot exactly where it was.
Right.
It was double digits, but because I think our last pick at number 9 was actually, it might have been 9th. I'm trying to think. I lost track of it, but you're thinking about it. Usually,
picked
like
15th. Yeah.
15th. Okay, I was right. Okay, so you're thinking about a guy picked at 15. I mean, he's going out there breaking the rookie record when a guy like Bradley Beal, who can shoot the ball with the best of them, ended up, getting picked 3rd.
And Beal had a pretty good rookie year too, so it's kind of nice to see. And yeah, Kispert's stats, just if you're curious on the year, 7.9 points per game, shooting 35% from 3, averaging, an assist, couple rebounds. I mean, obviously nothing to write home about, but still, I mean, as you're saying, like a guy that plays 20 minutes a game, 22 minutes a game, 15th overall pick, was kind of looked at as a long-term type thing. At least there's some returns right now. I mean, the team's terrible, but at least, hey, he's starting to shoot a little bit.
It's the R word. It's the role player reward here.
Yeah.
Because you're looking at him, and again, once again, like I said, the top like 6 or 7 picks are the guys who are going to go out there and average, 18, 19, 22 points a game or whatever it may be. Corey Kispert's not going to, because he had a great team with Gonzaga, he's not going to go out there and play like he did at Gonzaga, because Gonzaga was dominant in the entire college basketball world. So you're going to see a guy go out there and be that role player, because those are the guys that you have to find in the low teens, mid-teens type things. Because usually the guys that get picked 26th or whatever it may be don't really pan out that well. So that's why you're looking at a guy like Corey Kispert and saying, hey, congrats for that record, for the team record or whatever. But at the same time, you got to sit there and say, he got picked 15th. He's not this, Bradley Beal, John Wall, whatever. You can say like, hey, we're happy that right now he's coming off the bench and playing a good role for this team. And hopefully he can be that long-term answer for more depth on the bench that can actually produce off the bench and get those bench points.
And last but not least, on the as we recap the previous week, nothing really to talk about on the DC United side. This is international play break, so nothing really going on in DC United land. But they will return to games on Saturday, and I believe they play Atlanta FC. I think. Let's move to a little baseball talk, Mike, because we haven't had a chance. And actually, let's play the sounder first. Got to give him credit here.
Yeah.
The Washington Nationals.
All right, your Washington Nationals, as they head into the final week of spring training with full season baseball games starting next week. The Nats kick off their season on Thursday and against the Mets, and it will be a Apple TV game, unfortunately. If you don't have Apple TV, you'll need to get it to watch the Nats. Now, I believe they're making it free for a week or whatever it is. So if you don't currently have an Apple TV subscription, you can go get a free account and watch the game. But yeah, this is that exclusivity deal that we read about and heard about, weeks ago, right around the time the lockout ended. Is MLB will be airing a certain amount of games, I believe Thursday night or Friday night games on Apple TV, and that's the only place you'll be able to watch them. So it's kind of weird, Mike, because in the past it's like, well, we're already screwed because Masson doesn't stream anywhere.
Yeah.
And I just signed up for a VPN today so I can watch the Nats. Like if I want to watch, so like right now, I can't watch the Nats on my iPad. In my house, I can't watch the Nats on my iPad. I can watch them on my TV because I got cable. But if I'm, doing something else and I just want to throw the Nats on my iPad where I watch a lot of my stuff, I can't do that. So because it's blacked out if I try to watch it on like MLB TV or something. So I bought a VPN specifically to try that out and for other stuff too. But just to say like, hey, I'm in Croatia or something. So yeah, I can watch the Nats or whatever, throw my location up. But now
a lot of Croatian fans.
Yeah, a lot of Croatian fans. Now you throw in this wrinkle about Apple TV exclusive games, it's just wild to me, Mike, for a sport that's trying to bring in as many fans as possible and appeal to as many people as possible. You're making people sign up for subscriptions. We all don't want these subscriptions. There's too many subscriptions out there.
I think the best subscription I've ever subscribed to that was reoccurring, because nowadays you have to sign up for a trial and everyone's like, yeah, I guess I'll do the trial. And they forget to cancel it. And all of a sudden they get charged $35. And then you can't get in touch with a human. So you have to go through the automated process. They never know what the heck the refund is. My best subscription ever that is reoccurring is my Xbox Live subscription.
Sure.
And that's, a great subscription because I use it, obviously. But the biggest thing is Madden just sucks. We all know it sucks. You ended up sending us in our group text the new graphics and stuff like that.
Yeah, they got the new score bug.
We're like, oh, that's nice. Well, it'd be nice if we could see it. But can't even watch it. I mean, I canceled. Now I'm not one of those people like, I got a cord cut. I'm not.
Well, because it doesn't matter now. If you cord cut, you're paying as much as you would for cable at this point with all the subscriptions. Like, there's no saving money, it feels like.
Right. And I'm one of those leeches that I leech onto other people's, because like Netflix and stuff like that.
Sure,
like I have
do that too for some of them.
Yeah. For sure. I mean, I have my parents' Netflix and my sister's Disney Plus, that different stuff like that. But when it comes down to the cable, me and my girlfriend ended up saying, hey, I'm going to cancel my cable and we'll just use Hulu TV. Sure. So we're doing Hulu Live TV or whatever, but you still don't have Madden on that. And that's the only reason that I got cable in the first place. Was because I wanted to watch Nats games. And of course, last year they had like a million games at like 1 o'clock that you can't even watch it because you're not even home. And then it's like, oh my God. So I ended up saying, screw it. And I'll have to try to catch as many games as I can at the bar down the street.
Yeah, you might have to, I don't know, figure something out. Maybe use some of those Reddit threads where they give you the links where you can watch the games and stuff like that. Little shady links there. Yeah,
you see that score bug.
it's definitely a weird situation. But regardless, we're happy to have baseball back, nonetheless. And again, opening day next week, so the roster itself is starting to take shape a little bit. One of the big pieces of news that we had to mention is continuing the trend of the Nats bringing back every former player in the world. Is Tyler Kispert got a minor league contract offer from the Washington Nationals, which is really nuts if you think about it, Mike. Because Kispert was part of the Nats for quite a while, and then. Since he left them, he kind of started bouncing around to different teams. I mean, I remember seeing him in Toronto at one point. Oakland. Yeah, I'm pulling up his page here. So yeah, he played with the Nats from 2008 through 2014. So, and then after that, we're talking. He played in 2015. He played with Oakland. He played with the Mets. The next year, he played with Arizona. He played with the Yankees. In 2017, played with the Yankees, White Sox, and Houston. 2018, Toronto. 2019, Cleveland. 2020, Minnesota. 2021, Arizona. This is a guy that has bounced around like crazy and is not a spring chicken or anything. He's born in 1985, so he's like 35, I guess, or 37. So it's like. It was a wild move. I mean, yeah, I remember him for sure when he was here, and he was fun to watch, and he had that changeup that he could throw, and he was a reliable reliever. But yeah,
didn't he have a cutter? I thought he had a cutter too.
He might have, but I mean, I just remember him. He had in 2011, he had a really good year. He had a 1.83 ERA. 2014, he pitched pretty well too, to a 2.18 ERA. Like, he had some great years here. But again, we're talking 9 years ago. I mean, we're talking a long time ago. And at some point, I don't understand the moves of, and we talked about this, that I understand bringing some veterans back that won the World Series or something like that, and you can be like, hey, here's kind of training up the young guys and stuff like that. Tyler Kispert didn't win a World Series in Washington. Tyler Kispert played until 2015. Tyler Clippert's 37. To me, instead of signing a 37-year-old reliever who may give you something, but he's bounced around to 15 different teams, why not pick up like a young guy that was designated for assignment for like another team or something like that, like a project type guy that, hey, low risk. If he works out, great. If not, no problem. But a guy in his 20s, why are we signing guys in their late 30s just for nostalgia's sake. It doesn't make sense to me, Mike, at all.
Yeah, and I think we mentioned it off air prior as well. That basically this team is, I mean, I guess the vision for this team, and we're just guessing and speculating at this point.
Right.
That the vision for this team is we have young guys in place that actually have a shot as of right now to make the team, but they're trying to surround them with veterans that they possibly could flip if they have a good.
Yeah, you're right.
Because
Yeah.
these are small deals. It's not like they're blowing the bank out for $13 million for Clippy over here. But and by the way, is Clippy the little paper clip that used to be like in the corner of your screen? Was his name Clippy?
I thought he had a different name than Clippy, but you might be right. I mean, I definitely remember. Let's see, Clippy Microsoft. Okay, so they did call him Clippy. Okay, so that was I thought he was called something else, but yeah, it's Clippy. This thing
Stupid.
says Microsoft resurrects Clippy again after brutally killing him off.
Whoa! They killed him. Oh my god! I didn't know it was.
Because you'd be like typing up your school essay or whatever, and Clippy would come up and be like,
"Want me to help you with the grammar?"
I think you spelled your name wrong. And you'd be like, "Shut up, Clippy! You don't know my name." Clippy's like, you didn't even put the right date on the top of the page." Like,
where's your indentation there, Ben?
Yeah, are you sure you want to use Comic Sans here? And you're like, "Shut up, Clippy!"
It kept popping up. You got to find that stupid little X to get him off the screen.
Yeah, and they hid that X. That X would like bounce around. It would be like a game. Duck Hunter. You're just trying to find the X to get Clippy out of there.
Oh my god! Yeah, you see his little beady eyes like pop out from the screen. You're like, "Whoa!"
Yeah,
it's like
thing of nightmares for sure.
Oh,
it was like having a teacher like with you on the screen that was like being just so condescending. Like, weird word choice there. So what do you mean weird word choice, Clippy?
Thanks a lot, Clippy.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, Clippy's back. Tyler Clippard is back.
Oh, they brutally murdered Clippy, but the other clipboard's back. All right. So going back to him, I just think that when you're looking, like I said, we're speculating at what Mike Rizzo's plan is, because I think the writing's on the wall where you got Kispert Ruiz, you got Riley Adams, you got different guys that you got last year from these different teams. And I think that he's just trying. That's what we're doing with Nelson Cruz. Nelson Cruz ain't a long-term option. He's like 17 million years old. I mean, let's be honest here. So I think that they're going to try to have Nelson Cruz and flip him. I think they're going to go out there and try to flip.
But the Nelson Cruz makes sense. Nelson Cruz can hit 40 bombs in a year and still produce for your team. That makes sense. I'm with you on that. Tyler Clippard is 37 years old and has played for 5 million teams, including your local T-ball team down the street. Tyler Clippard's probably wore their jersey before, too. I don't get it. I get flipping Nelson Cruz. I don't get how any team is going to be interested in Tyler Clippard.
That's the thing, too, about if you're looking at a guy like Sean Doolittle. And me and my co-teacher were talking about it today, and I was like, because once I said his name, he was like, "Are you serious? He's back?" And I was like, "Yeah." And his fastball is 3 mile an hour slower, and he's 2 years older or whatever it is.
Yeah,
it's like it makes no sense because everyone likes to say "do," which is the most overrated thing. I hate that because like the other day for March Madness they were saying like they're not booing coach. His name is Brewster. Like it's like okay, we don't have to keep hearing the boos and the doos and the choo choos. I don't need to know all that kind of stuff. Okay, but like look at Will Harris. Will Harris I think is like 37 years old too. So I just think that. He's trying to do this and just throw, a dart at the board, and hopefully it gets near the bullseye where he can flip it for a prospect or, a number 5 or 6 prospect in their organization or something like that, and just see what happens, because obviously this team ain't going nowhere. I mean, they're already projected to have like 70 wins, which is horrible. And I think that's the worst win total projection they've had in the last decade. So I just think that Mike Rizzo is trying to do that, but also just fill out the roster. But I do see your point. Why can't we just get someone that, had like a Carter Keyboom experience in the majors and was just rough around the edges or something like that and just needed to be polished off a few different times and throw him in there and just, throw him to the wolves and see what happens. And I don't know exactly why he didn't do that and why he's sticking with some of these guys, but honestly, it's one of those situations that's kind of puzzling. But at the same time, some of the moves we get, some of them we don't.
Yeah, it's like, look, kick the tires on a 26-year-old. Don't kick the tires on a 37-year-old. Like I just
Right.
you can even pay. I mean, if it's about money, yeah, you can go get a guy who is pretty low value, the value equal to a Sean Doolittle or a Tyler Clippard. I mean, the only thing that they have is major league experience. So, like, you could obviously, I mean, that could be the other side of it. But yeah, it just didn't make sense to me at all. But all right, whatever, Rizzo. Whatever he wants to do, I guess. So as far as the opening day roster, this is one that MLB.com put together as a possible. They still got to trim things down, and then also there will be expanded rosters, I believe, until like May. So these will instead of the usual, I forget how many that's supposed to be on a team, they are expanded. But right now, what things are looking at, Keeper Ruiz and Riley Adams as the catchers, two young guys. Infielders
Liking
right
it.
now,
Like it.
Josh
Yeah.
Bell, Cesar Hernandez, who they brought over free agency, Alcides Escobar, who's on this team last year, Maikel Franco, who's very much like a feast or famine guy. He takes giant hacks at the plate. If he connects, great. If not, I mean, he couldn't even make it for an Orioles team last year, so that's not very promising. And then here, Adrianza, who is another offseason signing. That's your infield right now because Carter Kieboom's hurt.
Well, I'm kind of shocked because why isn't Luis Garcia on that list?
So he's not on the list right now. He could still make the club out of camp, so it's not out of the realm of possibility. They're thinking just performance-wise, they just don't know if he's going to break camp with the big club, which is surprising to me as well because obviously he has played for the big club a couple years in a row, not all one season, of course, but so you could easily add his name to this list. Outfield, you got Juan Soto right now, Victor Robles, who is struggling right now through spring training. We'll get to that in a bit. Lane Thomas, Yadiel Hernandez, and Andrew Stevenson. Some familiar names there, especially Stevenson. I feel like he's been around forever. Nelson Cruz, DH. Starting pitchers right now, you got Patrick Corbin, Josiah Gray, Eric Fetty, Anibal Sanchez, Josh Rogers. That's because Strasburg still injured. Or I mean, he should be coming back at some point, but I don't think he'll be back with the team starting opening day. But that's your five-man rotation. Really fearsome rotation there. In the bullpen, you got Steve Cishek, Sean Doolittle for now, Paolo Espino, Kyle Finnegan, Will Harris, Andres Machado, Francisco Perez, Tanner Rainey, Mason Thompson, Austin Voth. A lot of familiar names from last year. Not a lot of surprises there. I mean, Cishek was a good pickup. Yeah, I'd say not the most formidable group of guys, Mike. I mean, besides Soto, of course, and Josh Bell and Nelson Cruz, and a lot of these other guys are just kind of filler guys. I mean, Escobar, he's old. He's a filler guy. Maikel Franco, he's more of a project. They're trying to see if they can, get something out of him while Kieboom's hurt. Not a lot, not a lot exciting about this roster right now.
Yeah, and that's the look of it when you're looking at the starting pitching. I mean, when you have Eric Fetty, who we trash all the time, and then once we trash him, he goes out there and it looks like a Cy Young candidate, and then like the next start after that, he sucks.
Oh, quick note. Sorry, this was posted 14 minutes ago.
Oh,
the Nats did move Luis Garcia down to AAA, so he was cut and put down in AAA. So that answers that question. As far as he will not be.
I'm not sold on that. When you should just put the guy up there in a losing season. And yes, we're sounding like Debbie Downers here because Debbie is already down because we know we're not going to go anywhere. And that's the biggest thing is, I just don't understand. Like you have some of these guys that are, not has-beens, but they're not like going to be your future. And Luis Garcia is supposed to be a part of that future, and you have him in the minors. Who cares if he goes up there and bats, 237? Okay, go up there, give him more at bats, and you work with him. I mean, you're giving Carter Kieboom all these opportunities, and he ain't taking the reins on the sleigh here. So why don't you give Luis Garcia those type of chances? Now I understand that Carter Kieboom, has that potential and was at one time our best prospect and all that kind of stuff. I just don't get that. But going back to my point with starting pitching, I'm really excited to see Josiah Gray for the entire season. Now, I'm not looking at the win-loss, folks. I'm not looking at the win-loss.
No, you can't look at. I mean, even when it comes to pitching, win-loss doesn't matter because, it really doesn't. You're looking at things like ERA and FIP and all that stuff.
Right.
Sure.
So I'm really looking at Josiah Gray because his last outing a few days ago, He had 5 Ks in like three and a third innings, or something like that. He has that potential, but he has to grow up a little bit, because last year we did see him have a great 4 or 5 innings. Then all of a sudden the 6th and 7th, and then the second or third rotation comes around with that lineup, and they started pounding the ball off the bat when he was trying to pitch to him. So I'm hoping that he can get that locked down and somehow for the future be that number 2, 3 starter that you can rely on every 5th day. But I'm just hoping that he can show us something. I think as of right now, out of all the players we got, Ruiz and Gray are my top 2.
Yeah, I'd agree. If we're saying the ones that we're most excited to see, I would definitely say Josiah Gray is up there for me. Because like you said, we're not gonna look at the wins and losses when it comes to Josiah Gray. We're trying to see a full season, hopefully, out of him. See what he can, ERA wise, and see, we're not expecting a 2.4 ERA or anything, but I'd love him to. Hey, if he can get it sub 4, that would be great. If he's in, under 4.5, that's okay too. I won't be upset if he ends the season with like a 4.15 ERA or something like that. That's still pretty darn good for his age. So we'll kind of see there. But yeah, it seems like the path is, especially with Luis Garcia going down, it seems like D. Strange Gordon, or D. Gordon for those who grew up kind of knowing him as a player. He's probably going to make the big club out of camp, and that actually leads us right into some stock up and stock down, Mike, here in the spring. So I got some names for you, and I'm going to let you kind of know how they're doing. So one guy that is kind of an under the radar guy is Lane Thomas. 26-year-old. He was one of the guys we got in that trade with St. Louis. And he was pretty solid last year. His numbers were pretty good for the Nats. He batted about 270 in 178 bats for the Nats. Right now, so far in the spring, 313 average, 984 OPS. He's hit a bomb. This is a guy that should be an everyday outfielder for this team, so I think that could be fun. D. Gordon, who I just mentioned, another stock-up guy, 353 average, 824 OPS, so he's having a pretty darn good spring, and I think good enough to make the club out of camp, which is another guy I think he's 33 or 34 years old, so we're just
speed
AARP.
Speed guy, most likely, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, for sure. Not as quick as he used to be, but still faster than a lot of our guys. Juan Soto continues to just be Juan Soto, 1,000 OPS, 500 slugging. Patrick Corbin, this is the interesting one I want to talk about for a sec, so especially with no Steven Strasburg, and obviously, for now, and then obviously Max Scherzer being gone, and Josiah Gray not quite being ready yet, Patrick Corbin suddenly becomes your ace of the staff. And obviously last year was a terrible season for Patrick Corbin. Last 2 years, you're right, since the World Series. And that was some of the things people talked about, is maybe pitching in relief in the World Series screwed him up or something like that. To me, I feel like that's an excuse. I think if you're just looking for something to help him out, you could say that. But 2020, 4.66 ERA, 2021, 5.82 ERA. He only pitched in 11 games in 2020. Obviously, it was a shortened season, but still pretty bad over the past couple of years. So then for this year, he's probably going to be the opening day starter, and he's kind of going to be the ace of the staff for now. And it is spring training, and he's only pitched 9 innings worth. But for what it's worth, Mike, 6 hits, no earned runs, 10 Ks, a couple walks. It's a good sign, at least, right?
I mean, he's not a strikeout pitcher. So seeing 1.1 strikeouts per inning, or whatever the calculation is. Right. I mean, it's pretty damn good. I mean, his slider has always been his thing, and he's a contact pitcher, so he's used to getting the ground balls and whatnot. Maybe, just maybe, he found that little itch again and said, like, hey, I have a new season here. We're ready to rock and roll, and he's going to go after it. Now, like you said, 9 innings, not a huge sample size here.
It's just spring, but yeah.
But I just look at it and say, this guy did not just lose something. And that's what the baseball purists and different things like that, which makes zero sense, because if you're a baseball purist, shouldn't you be one of the smartest ones in the room?
You would think.
Having him go out there and pitch an inning in relief or something like that doesn't screw up a pitcher. I mean, I never understood that, where they're like, oh, he usually is a starter, and he went out there in the bullpen, and now all of a sudden he can't pitch.
Yeah,
it's not how it works.
I think it's a bunch of baloney. Yeah,
Max Scherzer did the same thing, and that didn't screw up Max Scherzer. Pitchers pitch. Okay.
Right.
I understand that you have a situation where you go out there and you have your routine in the morning, you have your, ODOs and all that kind of stuff. And
Right.
aren't ODOs a thing anymore? I don't know. Cheerios and Wheaties or whatever. Then you get to the ballpark and you're stretching and you're playing video games for an hour or what, your whole entire routine. I understand that, but just him in the bullpen waiting to come out and throw those 3 batters or 2 innings in relief or whatever did not screw up his
No,
career.
not for the rest of his career. It doesn't make. I understand it maybe if it was during the regular season and it messed up his next start or something, but this was the World Series. He had 3 months off afterwards before spring training. Like it didn't.
Yeah.
It didn't matter. I don't get it either.
Stupid. But I think that I'm hoping that if you want to still have fans in the stands and different things like that, he is one of the catalysts to have to go out there because who knows when Strauss comes back. But you're looking at it and saying, this guy was supposed to be the long term, not really long term, but like more so like a 5 to 10 year answer, in the starting rotation. Because I believe they signed him when he was what, 27, 28,
They
29?
signed him when he was 29, and it was a
29,
6-year, $140 million deal
Right.
with the Nats. And I'd say, I don't think. He's going to be here till 2025, barring a trade. And I would say, we got a pretty good 2019 out of him, and since then, he's definitely not lived up to. And keep in mind this: 2019, he was just getting paid $12.5 million. 2020, $19 million. 2021, $24 million. And he pitched almost a 6 ERA last year, and he got paid $24 million.
Hey,
This year he'll be paid 23.
Let me throw this at you though, okay? So you're Ben Rizzo here.
Yep, that's me.
This year, according to our philosophy, do you think if he goes out there and has like a 2.85 ERA, now that's not the best right now as we saw last couple seasons,
Right.
but his last 50 starts or whatever, he goes out there as 2.82 ERA, 1.03 WHIP or something like that. He goes out there and has that type of production and is consistently having 4 good starts out of 5. Do you trade him at the trade deadline for a bunch of prospects?
I would, if not. The only reason why I would hesitate there is because he's under team control for 2 more years after this year. I think if he had maybe only 1 more year of team control, then yeah. But in theory, the Nats would hopefully by 2024 be somewhat back on track and possibly be making it back to the playoffs.
Right.
And if he is still solid, then you'd want this guy as part of your staff. I think now that's if he has a tremendous first half this year. If he has a pretty good first half, then I think it could be up for debate. I think you could say there could be a possible move there. My whole thing is if he shows flashes of like, okay, I think he could be back, and this could be a sign of good things to come, then I think you want to probably hold on to him. But if he's just like average or a little bit better, and some teams come calling and they give you some prospect offers, then yeah, I would definitely listen to it. But
because that's what I'm saying though, is that if he has that type of ace, stuff, and yes, it's amazing to have a lefty ace, on your staff or a lefty that has ace potential. I just think that, man, you could get, especially at his age, you can get a damn good haul of prospects.
It depends on the price. Yeah, right. It depends on what you can get. I think Rizzo at this point shouldn't turn away any offer. The only guys that you're turning away offers from at this point are for guys like Juan Soto and like stuff like that. Besides that, there's not many other guys on this roster where you would be tied to,
So say you package him and Victor Robles or him and Carter Kieboom or something like that.
No, the problem is nobody wants him. Nobody wants him.
Exactly. Well, let's move on to Victor Robles and how well he's doing.
Yeah, we're talking about we've got 4 guys that their stocks are down for the spring. And I look, it is spring training. We get it. You can't take all these stats super seriously, but still, they're worth something. Nelson Cruz, this is one I'm not super worried about, but still only 1 hit so far this spring, no home runs, and that's only in 19 at bats, so small sample size, but you'd love at least 1 tank before the end of spring training. Victor Robles, 0 hits this spring, 0. And this is a guy who we've been clowning on for a long time now. And he's just, he's so bad right now that they're not even letting him play in like the game. So he's going down and playing in minor league spring training games, which is wild to me. But yeah, this is a guy who had 203 last year. in 315 at bats, just struggled. Always has had a good glove, good arm, all that good stuff. But if you can't hit, you can't stay in the bigs, Mike. And he hasn't even gotten a hit in spring training.
And that's the worst part about it is his glove is so good. We already saw like a Web Gem nominee the other day, and it's a simple thing that you look back at Michael A. Taylor's situation in center field. Everyone loved Michael A. Taylor. Everyone loved it.
Right.
But the problem is that he only hit during that one playoff series every single year.
That bought him like 2 more years with the team.
Yeah, like he hits like 3 bombs against the Cubs, and everyone's like, "Hey, let's sign him to a max deal."
And
that's the funny thing about it is you're looking at it and saying Victor Robles is that same guy, but better. He is probably a better fielder because he's got a cannon for an arm. The problem is though, he's got speed, and the issue is that he just can't hit. And it's like this is not like a Billy Beane experience because Billy Beane, when he was coming out of high school, was an unbelievable hitter. But Victor Robles, it just doesn't seem that he can get it together for some reason. It's like, dude, all we're doing is asking you to go out there and hit 240. Like, go hit 240.
You don't have to do much better than that. I mean,
especially now with the DH. You don't need that guy to hopefully not get an out before the pitcher spot, and then all of a sudden you screw your lineup over. But if you can go out there and hit 9th in the order, have that speed, and somehow just hit 240, get on it once every 4 bats or something like that, that would be perfectly fine for us. But when you go out there and hit 202 and you're only really good in the field, and all of a sudden you get up there and you crank a home run, and then the next 17 at bats you swing in with 12 times. I mean, it just makes no sense. He's got to get it together because his thread is getting by the inches now rather than that long leash that he used to have.
I mean, that 2019 season was perfect. He hit 255, 17 home runs, 65 RBI, OPS of 745. He had a great year, and that was at 22 years old. He did everything you needed from him in that year. And then since then, it's just been a struggle. I mean, 2020, a lot of people say it's hard to judge a player from that year because it was so weird and different with COVID and shorter games, blah, blah, blah. He hit 220 that year. But last year, things were back to normal, and the guy couldn't stay with the big club because he was so bad. I mean, he hit 203, wasn't getting on base, not great OPS, 2 home runs, the power was gone. It's just, he's going to, like you said, he's going to have to prove a lot. And I hope he does it. He's still young. I mean, he's like 25 or something. So, he has an opportunity for sure, and he's under team control for a couple more years. But, man, hopefully he can turn it around. And then 2 other guys, quick stock downs. Sean Doolittle, an inning and a half so far this spring, 3 walks, 2 hits, 4 earned runs, no strikeouts, an ERA of 27. Kyle Finnegan, who's going to be in our bullpen. I mean, he's pitched 2 innings, 8 hits, 5 earned runs, 1 home run given up, and 3 walks. So 2 relievers that are not inspiring a lot of confidence.
Jeez.
To say the least.
That's horrible.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Yeah, it's pretty bad. So next week, we will go dive into our crystal ball like we did before the Commanders season, and we're going to look at some prop bets for the season for the Nats, and make up some of our own prop bets for the Nats, and we'll do that next week on the show, so look forward to that. Before we get in the final lap, just a quick note. March Madness, of course, for those out there. Final 4 is set, of course. You got Duke, UNC, Villanova, Kansas. Mike, of just quick gut reaction here, who's your pick of these 4, disregarding brackets or betting or things like that? Who of these 4 do you think is just going to take the championship this year?
Honestly, Villanova, which I'll get to my picks later, they lost a really important piece.
Yeah, key guy.
So Kansas, I think, is going to move on in that one. UNC is just playing so well, and they also beat Duke by a ton at the end of the season. But Duke is playing really well. Honestly, I'm going to go with UNC. I'm going to ride my man Brady Manick, the lumberjack.
The lumberjack.
I'm going to go with the Tar Heels to win as number 8 seed.
I like it. Yeah, they've been coming on strong here. Let's hit up the final lap. 90 seconds, quick analysis on some big stories in sports. Here we go. This actually became official today. Albert Pujols signed a 1-year deal with the Cardinals. Man, Mike, the guy just can't stop playing baseball.
They're going to put him at the DH right now and just say, hey, right off into the sunset, have a nice little farewell tour.
That's the cool thing about the DH now in both leagues is you're going to give an opportunity to some of those guys.
Right.
Team USA Soccer beat Panama 5-1. which sets them up nicely because now they would have to suffer a 6-goal defeat to Costa Rica on Wednesday to be denied automatic qualification for the World Cup.
They've been saying this is the best USA team in a very, very, very long time. So obviously, we don't think we're going to win the World Cup, but it'd be nice to see them go kind of far.
The best USA team, which means they're the worst of the international teams. St. Peter's NCAA run ends, unfortunately, but they did become the first ever 15 seed to make the Elite Eight. The Peacocks, Mike.
It was fun to see them go that far, but then all of a sudden you see too many All-Americans and stuff like that just whoop up on them in the Elite Eight games, which is kind of a gripe, but at the same time, it's actually nice to see a Cinderella go that far.
They got some good matchups in the tournament. I mean, they played good teams, don't get me wrong, but
right.
You play a team like Purdue and Edey gets in foul trouble and stuff like that, and you're able to contain him. I mean, they had some solid matchups to help them out. Last but not least, the disaster that is the Los Angeles Lakers blow a 23-point lead, and they lose to the Pelicans, and they are now 10th in the West.
Why do the Lakers keep losing to the Pelicans? I don't get it.
They're the kryptonite, Mike.
And the Lakers are just, I mean, LeBron is, I think he's in coast mode now. Because honestly, I think he's just waiting for his son to somehow make a team or something like that and just play with him for like a year. But it's like, dude, you got the Lakers, you got some decent players on that team. You're losing to the Pelicans multiple times. I mean, it's just embarrassing.
I mean, if Russell Westbrook was able to drag the terrible team of the Wizards last year to at least the playoffs, it's insane that the Lakers aren't able to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
Like, that's just bananas.
Unbelievable.
So nuts there. Let's hit up the trivia machine here as we
Trivia machine.
go through some trivia questions for each other. Of course, Mike has a DC sports trivia question for me and for you, the audience. I have a Detroit sports trivia question because I happen to own the same game. Let's let you go first here for your DC trivia question.
All righty. It is a Washington Wizards question.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. What head coach was fired following a 1-10 start to a recent year? I'm not going to tell you the year. It's recent. It's within the last 20 years. After previously leading the Wizards to 4 straight playoff appearances.
Okay. The
So
guy
what head
immediately popped into my mind.
I'll say it one more time. What head coach was fired following a 1-10 start to a blank season after previously leading the Wizards to 4 straight playoff appearances? It is a coach that has coached within the last 20 years.
Yeah. No, I figured that, and my question would be: has he coached within the last 10 years?
I believe he has.
Okay, all right. I mean, the guy that first popped into my mind, I'm not 100% sure this is right, but I'm just going to throw out my guess. I'm going to go with Randy Whitman. Is it Randy?
No, because Randy did not. Think about this, though. Think about the second part of the question, okay? Because the second part of the question is talking about length. So it says leading the Wizards to 4 straight playoff appearances. So Randy Whitman, I think, was only on with the team for like 5 years.
Right. Interesting. Okay, I retract my guess.
I'll say it is prior to 2012.
Sure. Man, was it Eddie Jordan?
Yes, there it
It
is.
was Eddie Jordan. Okay.
Because I think Eddie Jordan was with the team
for
like
a while,
9 years or something like that.
Eddie Jordan. Jeez.
Yeah.
Throwing it back. All right, let's see if we can get this one. This is a baseball question here. It's not
baseball.
even really Detroit sports. It's more of just like a baseball type.
The balls
question.
that have bases.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let me first ask you the question I know you'll know the answer to. This doesn't count.
Okay, cool.
In 1997, what Michigan Wolverines cornerback beat out University of Tennessee quarterback Peyton Manning and became the first primarily defensive player in history to win the Heisman?
For some reason, I got 2 names in my head, but I think it was.
I would say go with your gut.
Okay, well, my gut and my other gut are telling me to. It's Desmond Howard, right?
No.
Or is it Charles Woodson?
Charles Woodson. It was
Okay.
Charles Woodson,
Didn't
yeah.
Desmond Howard win the Heisman too?
Yeah, but did he play defense? Or I can't remember.
I forgot, but Charles Woodson seemed like
I thought Desmond Howard was a receiver, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
Charles Woodson just seemed too easy, so that's why I didn't guess it.
That's okay, because that wasn't even your question.
Yeah.
Justin Verlander won the Triple Crown of pitching in the AL in 2011 by topping what 3 categories? What 3 categories won Justin Verlander the Triple Crown in pitching
ERA,
Ding, ding, ding. That's one.
strikeouts,
That's another. You're missing one more.
and I want to say whip, but I don't think that's it though. Okay, I got two things. I'll go with whip.
Is incorrect.
Yeah, see, that's what I thought. Damn it.
Give me
Trying
your
to
second
think.
one.
Man, I want to say like my other thing. I think it's wrong.
Not an overly complicated stat. It's a very simple stat.
Okay, then it's not. I don't think it's opponent's batting average.
No.
Then I want to say Ks per 9 innings.
No, it's actually wins. Wins.
Ah.
Which is bullshit. Excuse me. I'll mark that down. 59-30. Okay. Yeah, we try to keep the show relatively family friendly here. So I'll.
The funny thing is that a lot of other podcasts on the Contender and everything like that, they cuss all the time. And it's like, man, I wish we could.
We want to be. I know, but we want to be marketable. You never know when somebody comes calling. I wrote it down. I'll bleep it out. We'll finish off with the money line.
Wins are garbage.
Sponsored by DraftKings. Not a great start to this money line round for either of us. We're both 3-5 right now to start. So let's get back to 500 this week.
Let's do it.
My lock, just an easy one. Hockey. I'm going Kings, favored by 1.5 over the Kraken. I'm going to take them as my lock. The Kraken stink. So, yeah, I'm definitely going Kings here. And then my dog, we were just talking about them. I'm saying UNC plus 4.5 versus Duke. I agree. I think UNC can beat Duke, and I'm going to take them and that as my dog this week.
Yeah, the LA Kings are minus 200 right now on the money line. So we'll have to see if they can outbeat the Kraken, but I think that's a good pick. UNC, not a bad pick as well. I hope Duke wins because I have them in a pool for one of those pools. Now, did I want to pick Duke? No, but at the same time, That's my only team left in that pool. So anyways, pretty good pick though. I think UNC is probably going to take that one. My lock is Kansas minus 4.5 over Villanova. Obviously, as we mentioned earlier, Villanova lost Justin Moore, who averages 14.5.
Huge loss.
Five rebounds and 2 assists, which is, that's a huge loss for him in the season. And Kansas at the time, it was still like 4. So when I looked at it, they went up half a point. So minus 4.5 for Kansas. And my dogs, I'm going with the Caps tonight versus Carolina.
Okay.
In DC. 3-0 versus the Canes, outscoring them 12-5. Unbelievable that they're still the dogs in this one. So plus 1.5 for the Caps tonight.
I like that. I think the Caps, I mean, you like to at least, I mean, hey, they lose by a goal, you still get it. So I think there's a good shot there. And then, yeah, Kansas for sure. I'm thinking Kansas UNC in the championship.
Yep.
Yeah, it's crazy. March Madness is almost done. It's crazy that the NBA regular season's almost done. I mean, we're going to be full on baseball here in a few months. I mean, obviously baseball season's starting next week, but I mean, as far as these other sports starting to wrap up.
Right.
So we will be keeping you guys in the loop with, of course, Caps playoffs, and hopefully we'll do some post games and things like that during the NHL postseason. There will be no Wizards playoff post games, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Please continue to follow the show everywhere you get it. You can follow the show on Twitter at the DC Crossover and at Cerrone16. You can go download the Contender app, Contender with a K, and listen to our show and many other programs in DC and Chicago, sports themed, and then follow the YouTube page. I mean, subscribe. We even have some subscribers at this point. Yeah, definitely go find the DC Crossover on YouTube for sure.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Thanks, Chris.
And besides that, that about does it for episode 105 of the DC Crossover.
Dude, we're racking up our nice sounders now. We're racking them up.
Yeah, we're definitely adding a lot to it because you've got, now Chris Rock is joining us. Of course we have our pal
Greg Melvin.
Greg Melvin.
Greggy.
Classic there. We've got our American Idol song.
Oh my
just
God.
Played at full volume. And then you always got to throw in a little.
I've seen his life, and I've seen it burn through the bears and
We got to just play that song to end all of our shows from now on. I think that's
We
what we're gonna
should.
do it. Okay. Well, we will see you guys next time.
To exit out.
This has been another episode of the DC crossover. We'll see you next week, everybody. Have a
Praise the
good one.
Z-Man.
About the ways that you